Hey, birthday girl, why you look weird? Those were the last words caught on a phone recording. Laughter, then silence. Then came a whisper. Mommy, please stop. But by the time first responders arrived at the Bronx apartment that morning, 6-year-old Jala Ian was already cold. Her tiny frame was stiff, her lips bruised, her body battered. She had been zip-tied, duct-taped, and left to die in a locked room, in the very home meant to keep her safe. The woman who answered the door didn't seem alarmed, just tired. Her name? Shamaya Ian, Jala's mother. Inside the filthy apartment, officers stepped over dirty laundry, broken toys, and unwashed dishes, but nothing could prepare them for what they'd find in the bedroom. A child, face up, eyes vacant, wrists bound. A final echo of suffering too late to stop. Shamaya, only 26 years old, stood emotionless nearby. I found her like that this morning, she claimed, but the signs told another story, one written in bruises, restraint marks, and weeks of unheard cries. This wasn't just a murder, it was a systemic failure, one that began long before Jala took her final breath. If you agree that no child should ever die like this, hit the like button. Let their stories be seen. May 26, 2023, 8:51 a.m. Jala Ian was pronounced dead at the scene. By then, it was already clear this hadn't happened overnight. She had been crying, screaming, for days. The walls were thin. Neighbors heard the sounds, but no one knocked, no one called. We all heard her, one neighbor later admitted. I wish I had done something. There were old bruises, new bruises, signs of restraint and neglect. The apartment was in chaos. 2 other children were inside, an 8-year-old and a 3-year-old, both with injuries, both now silent witnesses. Shamaya was escorted a few blocks away to the 42nd precinct, calm and collected. Am I going to jail? She asked flatly. She never once asked about her daughter. That same day, the NYPD and Administration for Children's Services opened a joint investigation, but the city was already too late. And Jala, she was already gone. Jala wasn't just a name in a report. She was a child, a girl with big brown eyes, a shy giggle, and the kind of heart that wanted to hug strangers just to make them smile. She was the sweetest girl I've ever met, said family friend Tayana Crawford. She always wanted to give me love, show me affection. I'll never forget that. She should have been blowing out candles, riding the school bus, drawing butterflies and stars. Instead, she died in a bedroom smaller than most closets, on a stained mattress, wrapped in duct tape, with no teddy bear, no comfort, just fear. This is disgusting, one neighbor sobbed. I didn't even know her, and I'm hurt. Shamaya wasn't a stranger to CPS. She had 2 prior ACS cases filed for possible abuse, one by a neighbor, another by a family member. Both were closed after a single visit. I saw her take her kids to school, a PTA member said. She seemed warm, kind. I had no idea. That's the thing. No one really does, until it's too late. What do you think really happened inside that apartment? Tell us in the comments. Your voice might help someone else speak up. The door creaked open to a bedroom that shouldn't have existed. Dim light filtered in through dirty blinds. No toys, no posters, no color. Just a stained mattress pushed into the corner and the body of a little girl. Jala's arms were stiff. Zip ties bit into her wrists. Duct tape rested beside her. Her lips were swollen. Her chest, back, and face were a map of pain. Bruises in different stages of healing. Paramedics tried. They always try. But there was nothing left to save. You could feel the evil in the room, one officer later said. That wasn't a mother. That was a monster. Police documented everything. Dirty clothes stacked waist-high, moldy dishes, rotten food in the sink. A house that hadn't known love in a very long time. 2 other children were found in the apartment, quiet, dazed, with fresh bruises and ligature marks of their own. The 8-year-old boy whispered to police, "Mom hits us. She ties us up." It was all unraveling now. At the 42nd precinct, Shamaya Ian sat in silence. When detectives asked what happened, she said, "She wasn't listening. I put her in her room. She must have hurt herself." But her words trembled. Her eyes didn't. As investigators pressed, her answers frayed. Then came the contradictions. The timeline shifted, the lies tangled. They searched her phone, her laptop, broken tablets, And what they found was chilling. Deleted texts, searches like, how to restrain a child without bruises. Is it abuse or discipline? Quiet room set up for bad behavior. And a voice memo, never sent. I'm done. I can't take her crying anymore. I swear I'm about to lose it. The next day, Jala was dead. But perhaps the most haunting part? Child Protective Services had been there before. Twice. One neighbor had reported screaming. A relative had warned of bruises. Both cases were closed. No follow-up. No intervention. No rescue. If you want to see more real cases that disturb you to your core, hit the subscribe button and turn on the notification bell. Some stories don't just haunt you, they change you. What triggered the final blow? As detectives reconstructed Shamaya's past, a deeper pattern emerged. Frequent address changes, emotional instability journals that swung from devotion to resentment. One chilling entry read, "Sometimes I think she ruined my life, but then she sleeps and I almost forget." Almost. Neighbors recalled hearing screams. It wasn't once, one woman said. It was all the time. One floor below, a woman admitted she used to cover her ears at night. I didn't want to get involved. But by May 26th, it was no longer avoidable. Shamaya was charged with second-degree murder, manslaughter, unlawful restraint, assault, and endangering the welfare of a child. She didn't protest. She didn't cry. When officers read her rights, all she asked was, "Am I going to jail?" The weight of the world had fallen, and she didn't even flinch. Inside Rikers Island, Shamaya Ian was placed in a segregated unit, not for her safety, but because no one wanted to see her. Other inmates, many mothers themselves, knew what she had done. Even the guards avoided eye contact. Her attorney claimed mental illness, major depressive disorder, postpartum psychosis, trauma from her own childhood. They argued this wasn't murder, it was a breakdown. But prosecutors pushed back hard. They brought out the search history, the deleted messages, and one unreleased voice memo, the one where Shamaya screamed for nearly a minute before ending it with, "One more sound out of you, and I'll make it stop forever." There was no single moment of rage. This was a pattern. Days of silence, nights of screaming, weeks of restraint, fear, and emotional erasure. And what terrified the public most was how normal she had seemed. Neighbors saw her walking the kids to school. She was warm, friendly. She even smiled. But behind closed doors, it was a house of horror. If this shocked you as much as it did us, what do you think? Tell us in the comments. Sometimes it's the silence around abuse that hurts more than the bruises. When the court deemed Shamaya fit to stand trial, no one cheered, because Jala was still gone. The headlines slowed, the story faded, and her name risked becoming just another tragic footnote. But something unexpected happened. From the grief, a movement was born. Volunteers in the Bronx launched the Galilea Project, named not after Shamaya, but after the middle name of the little girl who died unheard. Purple-shirted advocates began surprise wellness checks in low-income neighborhoods. Parenting workshops were offered for free. CPS oversight began to change. And on the corner near that apartment, a mural went up. Jala's face, surrounded by butterflies, a halo above her tiny head. The words, "She should still be here." Candles still flicker beneath that wall at night. But this story doesn't end with her mural. It ends with you. Because if you've made it this far, you already know. This wasn't just a crime. It was a message. A cry from a child the world ignored. A lesson we learned too late. So if you agree that no child should have to die before someone listens, hit the like button. Not for views, but to keep her name alive in the algorithm that tried to bury her. Say her name. Say it softly. Jala Ian. A name that should have been called at birthdays. A name that should have echoed through classrooms, school plays, and graduation halls. But instead, it echoes here, in our hearts, in our failures, in our responsibility to never, ever let this happen again. Because somewhere, right now, another child like Jala is waiting, alone, silenced, terrified. What will you do when you hear that next cry?